Iowa Debris and Jennifer Lopez on talent.
Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Cake Radio Show. I'm the CakeDive, and I hope y'all are doing well because today we are literally kicking off Vlogsmas. I don't know if this is Vlogsmas. I can't call it Vlogsmas, can I? Because I'm not like showing my face and like vlogging. And I can't call it like 25 Days of Christmas because like that's generic and Disney been doing that. And I don't know if they copyright that. I don't know if they're going to get me. We're going to call it today 25 Days of Podsmas. How about that? Podsmas, like podcast. You know what I mean? But anyway, what we're here to do today is, well, before I even dig into that, let me explain what I'm trying to do. So, like, we got 25 days until Christmas, and I would love to give y'all a new episode of the Cake Radio Show or like a new video on the Cake Radio channel every day until Christmas. Very bold of me to do. The way my schedule is so chaotic, I don't know if this is going to even work, if I'm going to make it to the 25 days, but we are going to see. And we're going to kick it off right and talk about Billboard's greatest pop stars of the 21st century ranking for this year. So, as everybody who's probably watching this knows, Billboard loves to do a ranking of the greatest pop stars or like the greatest stars of the 21st century. And it like, for some reason this year, well, okay, I can't even say this year, but it seems like the Beehive and Swifties are going at it because of the fact that uh, Taylor Swift is number 2 and Beyonce is number 1 on the rankings. Mind you, Beyonce has consistently been number 1 on the rankings, so it should not come as a surprise. But there's been a lot of people there's been Swifties coming at Billboard and like attacking them for that decision to make Taylor Swift number 2. And there have been the Beehive who've been clocking the Swifties and saying, "Oh, like Taylor Swift hasn't done too much to like deserve the number 1 spot," and that their approach to this is very racist. So like we can dig into that and more, but we will be starting the episode with going through the top 25, going from bottom to top, and obviously giving my thoughts on it. I don't know if I will do a final ranking as like, oh, like who I believe the top 25 pop stars of the 21st century would be. It will look a lot different than this list. But if y'all are interested in that, let me know in the comments on YouTube or Spotify. But let's get into it. So Katy Perry is number 25 this year. Honestly, low key, I would swap her to like 24th or maybe a little bit higher on the list, because I think the thing is that Katy Perry is a fairly successful artist. Like, she's had a lot of hit singles, a lot of hit records. She's been on the charts plenty of times. Um, I'm pretty sure all but like one or two of her albums has debuted at like the top 10 on Billboard. I'm pretty sure. Um, so like consistently, like performance wise, she's kind of got it. Culturally is a different conversation, I would say. And I think that we like this year is obviously a very pivotal moment in the decision of that, because we can't forget that Katy Perry like had a lot of hit records back in the 2010s era of things like Teenage Dream. Like, everybody remembers where they were with the Teenage Dream album, and like One of the Boys came out in 2008 and they had like hit records on there as well. And I feel like after like Prism also had its hits as well, like You Gonna Hear Me Roar. Like, she had some fairly strong albums. The first 3 albums she put out were fairly strong. She like headlined the Super Bowl and got her things with that. And like Up until Witness, I feel like she was fairly beloved culturally. Now, when it came to like the Witness era, when she like switched that wig, when she got the little pixie cut short wig, or like her was, I think that's her natural hair. That little shortcut going on, that's when things started going downhill. Um, Culturally, Witness still had some of its like hits, like Swish Swish with Nicki Minaj, and I think that's the biggest one that can come to mind. I think Deja Vu was also something that I remember like really kind of reaching culturally a little bit as well. There was a few songs on there that had some hits, but that being said, like that was kind of the beginning of like the end culturally, in which I feel like people lost interest and the vision that Katie had for her music, or if she even had a vision, shifted completely. Then Smile came out. Smile didn't really do too much numbers, mainly because it was like the pandemic, and in the middle of the pandemic too, like August 2020, and like music was kind of in like a really weird era during that time. And I feel like a lot of people didn't even know that she was releasing the album, and like people just didn't really care about it. And then we had this year, 143, which I've talked about before on the podcast, and how she, with 143, she came with this very, it seemed like she was trying to chase her old habits and like a lot of the visions that, or like hits that she had with like Teenage Dream, without really doing what needed to be done with Teenage Dream and having like a cohesive vision for the album, and like actually having really strong writing at hand. Like she brought in a lot of the talent that she had worked on for previous albums, including but not limited to a Dr. Luke, which pretty much doomed any of the chances that the album had at being successful or having any defenders of the album. Um, and as someone who has listened to the album in full, it's a really bad album. Like it's a really bad album. And the fact that she just kind of like, and mind you, like throughout the years, even with her having like these moments of people calling her a flop and like stuff like that, she still had like smaller hits and hits that got away. Like we can't forget that she had Harley's in Hawaii in 2019, and 365 with Zed in 2019, and Cozy Little Christmas in 2018. Like Cozy Little Christmas has been doing some numbers, and again, it's like she has a few hits here and now in between, and while she probably is like creatively bankrupt nowadays, it's still fair to like acknowledge that she had a really strong run in the early portions of her career, and that should still be celebrated and commended, and she still celebrates it. So like, hey, if she can get back into her bag in a really smart way that isn't offensive and like stupid, I think she might rank higher on the list. But I'm not too mad at the 25th ranking. Ed Sheeran, I can't really talk too much about him. Like I know he has his hits, um, and 24th isn't like a bad spot for him. So like I respect it. Again, can't talk too much about him because I only know a few of his songs. I'm not too familiar with his game. Um, but he has his retail music bag. Like I know a lot of service workers who are very familiar with his discography, to say better or for worse. So like him being on the list is not bad either. Bad Bunny for 23. Like Bad Bunny has some hits. Like I like a couple of the Bad Bunny songs. Like I think because like he's really kind of done his big one in making um his name like very well known in like the Latino space, like music space, and like to the point where she's been able to also do a lot. The reason I think he's like it's right for him to be on this list is because he's definitely had a few of his songs and a few songs even on his albums, as well as some of his features and collaborations, like hop over and reach the like cross market. And when I say cross market, it's like people who predominantly speak English, um, in ways that I think have like made more people aware of him than like other artists have been. Um, so I think that like him being on the list is not too bad. Like I can't really complain, and props to him for being on the list. One Direction number 22. Like it is. It, you know, One Direction was like they was a hit boy band. Like I can't even like I wasn't into One Direction, but like it's very it'd be very stupid of me to try to discredit the fact that they were like the boy band for the time. And you know, like a lot of the since the band has like split up, like it's that a lot of the artists have kind of done their own things individually and stuff now. You know, like Harry Styles has really popped off as an art as a solo artist. You know, Zayn is trying to do his solo music and stuff as well. Liam Payne unfortunately passed. It's like, well, you know, there's been conversations about about that, but like he did pass away. Um, so but like again, like the group, the band was very culturally relevant, and like I remember the moments of like um the boy band wars and people like going at each other about like which boy band was better, and like the very weird teenage reactions that like teenage girls and boys to the teenage girls and gays would have to the band. Like it was kind of hilarious seeing that stuff unfold and break down. But again, like it's a testament of like their success as like a boy group. Like there's very few boy bands in like the 21st century that really kind of like hit off like they did until we got into like the transition to like more like K-pop and more like global stars, beyond One Direction, when they were just like, I mean, like they were British and like Irish, so like there was that. But you know, 21st going to Lil Wayne, you know, like Lil Wayne has his hits like a lollipop, but like, and you know, it's very interesting that like that you know Lil Wayne is on this list because like Lil Wayne has been in recent years recognized not for his music but for complaining about his music, but for also some like weirder things. Like first of all, we have to remember that the man was grifting to as a Trump supporter. We cannot forget that moment and him acting confused about like the Black Lives Matter movement and conversations around that. That was very strange. But it's also obviously that's not a testament of like his cultural relevance, but yeah, we have to talk about, you know, how they are recently as well as how they were in the past. So you have that MAGA stuff. Then you got the moment this year in which Kendrick Lamar was announced to be headlining for the Super Bowl next year in 2025, and Lil Wayne's reaction when he said that he wanted to headline, and the whole conversations around that, and him being really weird about that. Kendrick acknowledged on GNX. I might do a review of GNX, and Lil Wayne like snapped back and said like, "Oh, like you don't wanna do this, like, you know, I might get in the studio for this." And I actually had a conversation with a friend, shout out to Andrew, but I had a conversation with a friend about Lil Wayne and Kendrick and that whole situation. And for me personally, I feel as if like Lil Wayne has a lot of hits, and even some of his recent stuff has been good, but I feel like his pen has not been as strong as it was in the past. Like his songs have not hit in like the recent year or so, like they have with like his previous albums. Like we all know where we were with like the Carter 3 and like the hits with his other albums around that time as well. So like again, I can absolutely respect him as an artist and like a lot of the hits that he's had throughout the years, but nobody really listens or talks about his recent albums. Like the last time I remember people talking about a recent album from like Lil Wayne was like the fix before the one that came out in like last year in 2023, and that was only because I remember like following Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday 2 rollout, and how like there wasn't a rollout with that, and the how she like pushed the release date of that back because like it was either she pushed the release date back for that, or like because of Lil Wayne dropping the album on the day she was originally supposed to be dropping the album, and she was using that as an excuse to push the album back because the album wasn't done, because she waited the last damn minute to um to do the album, and she's on the list apparently early up, so I will be talking about her. um but that's really, or like no, wait, it wasn't. I think it was that, but I think it was also her like pulling out of like performing before the album came out and performing some like and them swapping her out with Lil Wayne and like Barb's being upset because they wasn't trying to bump Lil Wayne. It was like this whole thing, but like it shows a testament of like where he is now. And then like again back with like the Super Bowl thing, I remember seeing people like talk about like, oh, like Lil Wayne wanted to perform at the Super Bowl, like this is what he's doing in his performances, and it's not giving something that would have like Super Bowl vibes to it. Like it would be very off. Like I don't think he's a Super Bowl artist by any means. Like he has his hits, don't get me wrong, but and I think if he wanted to do Super Bowl, I could see him doing like a moment in which he like pops up and features on like someone else's performance. But I feel like the way he performs does not command the room the way a Super Bowl performance should. Number 20 goes to Bruno Mars. I feel like Bruno Mars low-key should be higher up on this list. And it's because like I feel like a lot of people forget how like much of a hit maker Bruno Mars is. Like both with his albums as well as with his like features and collaborations. Like I feel like every album that he's put out has been something, has had like some sort of hit or something. Well, maybe not necessarily like doo-wops and hooligans, but like Unorthodox Jukebox in 2012, 24K Magic most definitely, and then like An Evening with Silk Sonic were all albums that he worked on that had big hits. Like there were so many hits on each of those albums that really like took the charts. And then with his collaborations and his features with other artists, like you have like some of the biggest ones that I remember were like the Finesse remix with Cardi B. Like he was doing his big one with his Cardi B collaborations. I actually did talk about this with the Cardi B video I did. Please Me with Cardi B. Ooh, that's a hit. Like I would love to see another Cardi B Bruno Mars collaboration. And then you had Die with a Smile this year with Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. And then I think it's Apt, is it APT? Apt with Rose, that's recently been hitting off. Like both of those coming out this year. Like he consistently has been dominating the charts when he does these collaborations and putting out albums as well. So like even though he hasn't done, like realistically, like if you look at how many like his discography, even though he hasn't put out as many albums as a lot of the other artists on this list, he's had a lot of the accolades and a lot of the success that a lot of these artists do. So I think he should be higher up on the list. That's just me personally. BTS number 19. Low key, I think BTS should be higher on the list as well, because like the way that they kind of dominated the game, with they should no shade. Like they kind of really took it with a lot of their success as artists and with their albums and stuff like that. And even like obviously like K-pop was on the up and up and they helped like lead the charge with that. But really their ways of crossing over and like collaborating with other artists, like I haven't listened to I didn't listen to too many of BTS's like songs until they did like the Butter remix with Megan Thee Stallion, and I was like, wait, this is kind of cute. Like, well, and mind you, like I heard their songs on the radio and in commercials like everywhere. Like they were still dominating, so I was familiar with their stuff, but I never like listened and took the time to listen to them as artists until that collaboration, and I'm glad I did. But again, like I respect the hustle, I respect the game, I respect where they at and how they've been taking it. So I think they should be higher on the list. The Weeknd number 18. Low key, like I'm kind of fine with that placement. No shade. Like I think The Weeknd is definitely like, because again, like I can't keep saying like, oh, like they should be higher on the list, because like at some point the list it's gonna be a little bit tough, a lot of tough calls there now. But The Weeknd has had a lot of success with his albums. He's had a lot of success as a pop star, and I think a lot of people, like he's dominated charts. He's had a lot of hits, even like unintentional hits. Because I remember, shout out to Jeannie, her and I was talking when we was playing Fortnite, and we was talking about Popular, which was the song that he did with Madonna and Playboi Carti for The Idol, which I actually want to bring up here because it's kind of interesting that like culturally he's kind of in this like this weird period in which like he generally is respected as an artist, and he's tried like I guess transitioning away from music, or like expanding his brand in a way that like people really respected him, and he was trying to get into acting. I think he is still trying to get into acting, but when he started with the Idol, that was just not the move. Like everybody was talking about the clips that they were seeing of like him sounding weird as hell on the script, on record, on direction with Sam Levinson. And Sam Levinson's an awful director, mind you. Um, Great cinematography. And like he's able to get away with certain things because of like certain scripts he's been able to get. Horrible writer, questionable director. And he teamed up the weekend to try to mess up the Idol. The Idol's concept sounded a lot better before they like really took and messed up the script. And now that's kind of a stain on like the Weeknd's career, no shade, because like he was directly involved in a lot of the decisions around that show. And the fact that like nobody watched the show and HBO scrubbed it over the rug, that's just interesting. He's trying to come back to direct, and he's doing a film inspired by his like upcoming album that's coming out, and Lionsgate's distributing it. I'm interested in seeing how that goes, and I will possibly even do a review for it here, because y'all know I like for the like the 15 people who watch my film videos and my podcast or listen to my film podcast. Y'all know I love film. Y'all know I love talking about film. So maybe I will talk about that film if it comes out. Number 17, Shakira. Oh, Shakira. Like she is a hit maker now. Like I like she, and as someone who's like she's a global hit pop star down. Like she definitely deserves to be on this list, and I definitely respect her being on like 17, because like there's definitely bigger art. Well, yes, there are bigger artists, but like her being within top 20 is definitely fair, because like she has her hits consistently, and I think, and even with like her like recent albums, because she recently put an album out this year. Like the album is good. Like she is still like consistent, and like she still has a really strong and supportive fan base. And like again, I think with the MTV Awards last year, yes, it was last year, because it was the time in which Nicki Minaj was hosting, and like the MTV Awards regretted that, which I will get into. um, she has like shown that like she is a pop star to really like command a room, to be respected, to be beloved, and that like the girls still want to like the girls like artists still want to collaborate with her. Artists still enjoy her music, even the new stuff. Like that is something that for a lot of artists who have stood the test of time, that's very difficult to do. And like I'm still bumped to the Shakira songs. Like I listened to the new album. I would love to re-listen to it and like possibly even do a review on it. But I also like I really love Punteria with Cardi B on it. Like that's ooh, like I really love that track actually. Number 16, Jay-Z. Now, some people don't know this, but I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. Like I enjoy Jay-Z up until tried talking about like economic wealth and like black wealth and like all the type of stuff like that, because his black capitalist ass don't know two shits about that, no shade. But when it comes to the music, he makes really good music, and like it's really interesting how like a lot of people, well, he's been able, like ever since he did 444, like he's been able to just kind of like disappear and coast mostly. Like he hasn't put a new album out since 2017 with 444, and it is just like he stood the test of time, and people still discuss his music. People still discuss him, mostly in his relationship with Beyonce and the things about that. And again, all in all, still like and even then, like even though he's not putting out music, he's still doing his big things with music. You know, he's running Rock Nation. He's been putting artists on with Rock Nation, to the point which other artists, some of who are on this list, and some of their fans have been blaming Rock Nation for some of the things that have happened to their faves. You have him doing the collaboration with the NFL, which is still like, I still find it really weird that like we were all trying to protest and support Colin Kaepernick, and then he was just, and even him, and he was just like, oh, we're partnering with the NFL and we're trying to create equity, and like it's like everyone's kind of pretending like things are normal, but Colin Kaepernick still can't get on a team. Like that's still kind of crazy and questionable that we just kind of gave up on that. But again, we're focusing on the music. he's still done a lot of like big things and still doing big things and working with artists in that space. So I would be really interested in seeing, you know, like I think he deserves his place on the top 20 for sure. Do people want new music from Jay-Z? I feel like that's one of the few artists that I feel like I've never heard someone like say like we should get new music from. I wouldn't mind new music from Jay-Z, but I wonder if like I would love to hear y'all's thoughts if like y'all would want Jay-Z music coming, like new Jay-Z music, or if we're just like cool. Cause like now that I think about it, I know like there chart wise, there have been situations in which like he's partnered with like different companies to try to help boost the numbers and do some payola. Like I remember with 444, like he was working heavy with like Sprint and Tidal, where he owned Tidal. Can't forget that moment in his time with a lot of artists on this list when they tried launching and making Tidal the next big thing when that didn't happen. How like they was trying to use Sprint to like help push 444 sales, and then I remember they did that like a few years before that with Samsung and the what was the project? Oh my god, I think it was Magna Carta Holy Grail. And how they was trying to use Samsung to push the album, and that was really interesting. Like I would love to do some full-fledged videos on those things because that's a really interesting topic to dig into. But I don't know if the people streaming it. I don't know if the people streaming Jay-Z like that, but if he does new music again, it will be interesting to see. Maybe that's why he don't want to put no music out. Maybe he realized the girl's not trying to stream like that, and he's just like, well, let me sit next to my wife. Let me sit next to my wife and be cute. And even then, like he's still involved in music because he was helping write some of the songs for Beyonce. Like let's not forget that Unique. Like he was writing some of the songs off Renaissance, and everybody was talking about it. Number 15, Miley Cyrus. You know what? I would agree with this placement if only Justin Timberlake wasn't on the list. Like I feel like Justin Timberlake, and I'll dig into that otherwise. But like Jay-Z and Miley Cyrus, low key. Now that I see Justin Timberlake's in 14th, I think they should be higher on the list. I think Justin Timberlake should be off the list. But Miley Cyrus is a hitmaker. I know a lot of people. I know most people who probably are listening to this like grew up with Miley, with like Hannah Montana and like the Disney Channel and stuff like that. But for me, for someone who wasn't really watching the DComs like that the Disney Channel originals like that, with the exception of like That's So Raven and not even That's So Raven. I grew up with like when I was watching Disney Channel, I was mostly watching the animated stuff. So I was watching like Phineas and Ferb. That tells you how old I am. I was watching like The Proud Family and Phineas and Ferb growing up. Like that was my stuff. I wasn't really watching like the live action Disney stuff until I got older. And so I like I didn't know Miley Cyrus until like I feel like it was the Bangers out era. The Bangers album rollout. Yes, it was the Bangers album rollout when like I remember like the first song from Miley Cyrus that I listened to was Wrecking Ball. And like I remember that era of like people really being like strange and like being like, hey, like what's going on here, Miley? And like people like, because the fact that she was maturing and was leading into more a mature feel with her music, people and like her performances, people being like, oh, like think of the kids and all that type of bullshit. But anyways, I was introduced to Miley Cyrus during that controversial era, and like her kind of trying to lean into some like trying to surf her black tees a little bit with like, oh my god, wait, with 23 with Mike Will Made It. That song, like listen, like Miley has some pounds of flesh. She had paid her some of her pounds of flesh, and that era was a little bit questionable sometimes. But like she had her hits, and I feel like that low key was like the best time for me to like be introduced to her because it was interesting being like seeing everybody be like, now what the hell is this, and me being like, wait, I'm kind of gagging just a little bit about this white girl. Like I'm kind of gagging a little bit, and she's had her hits consistently throughout the years, and I feel like a lot of people have now like, I guess those who are against Miley have now like welcomed her with like the Endless Summer Vacation album when it came out last year, and then with her collaborating with Beyonce and getting her flowers with that, with Two Most Wanted on the Cowboy Carter album. Like, she has cemented her place as a pop star for sure. So I'm only mad that she's in 15th just because Justin Timberlake's on the list. Now let's talk about JT. And I'm not talking about the City Girls one, because that's the one hey, hold on. But Justin Timberlake is I know a lot of people love Justin Timberlake's old pop songs and stuff like that, but I feel like JT has not really had much like modern success outside of like the Trolls movies. And that's for like good reason. And mind you, like for me personally, I hate Justin Timberlake. I feel like a lot of people are shocked when I say that I don't like Justin Timberlake. And when they ask me why, it's largely because of the fact that like one, I don't like a lot of his music. But two, the most important thing is because of like the Janet Jackson Super Bowl thing and how like he handled that. I feel like Janet had to like basically be crucified for that situation because she was a black woman, and JT was able to kind of go away scot free. Like I feel like he did not get his pound of flesh taken from that situation, and I think he really should have. And I think, and I want to be the one to do it. I'm hunting him down. Like I'm not letting him go. I'm strict with him, and I know like this year he put out an album because like for some reason people like he was doing road promo. Was it this year or last year? Either this year or last year he was rolling out this like a new album, and like I remember people were talking about how like people weren't talking about the album, and like he ended up doing like the NSYNC comeback, because like for the longest time he wasn't trying to do an NSYNC return or reunion or anything like that. Now he kind of has to do it because nobody's streaming the new shit, and then he was doing that for like Trolls. And again, like I feel like his biggest thing in like the most recent years that he's been like and that's the later half of like the 21st century that he's been like recognized and popular with has been the Trolls movies, which says a lot. But still can respect his earlier um hits as a pop star, especially with NSYNC, but him as a solo artist as well. Like he still has hits, he still has collaborations. I'm not gonna take that from him. Do I like him? No. Do I think he should be number 14? No. But do I think that he's a pop star in the 21st century? For sure. Number 13, Nicki Minaj. Now y'all might crucify me for this one, but Nicki Minaj, I'm not too sure that she should be number 13th or in the top 20. I think that, you know what? I'm going to switch up and say that she does. I think she should be here. I don't know if I feel if she should be number 13th, but I think that in there's two things that can be right at the same time. I think that Nicki Minaj as an artist has definitely, especially when she popped off in like the 2010s, she definitely cemented herself as like the pop star girl, like the pop star rapper, mind you. Like I remember growing up and like really tapping into like Nicki Minaj during the Pink Print era, which I still say to this day is her best album yet. In that era in which like everyone was really like fantasized about her butt and like the butt implants, and how everyone was saying that like, oh, her butt is just like abnormally big. Mind you, it did not look that big looking back at things. The Pink Print era and that rollout with like Anaconda and all those songs, and how those songs were like controversial because of like all the ass and stuff like that, even though it's like a sample and it wasn't that bad. Like it was kind of an iconic moment. And like her doing her like acting stuff with like, I remember seeing her in like barbershop, the third barbershop film that came out in like 2010s, and gagging a little bit, and like The Other Woman, and like those movies. Like she was kind of in the 2010s, like she really had that moment in which she, even with like the drama with like Little Kim, and I think like Remy Ma kind of stepped into that era, a little bit of Remy Ma's beef in that era. Like she still was kind of like a iconic artist musically and like culturally as well. She was culturally respected. And then you have the Hate Train with like Queen and like the Queen album, which like I still think is not a good album from her, but I've definitely grown a little bit in comparisons to Pink Friday 2. And I think that the reason why I feel a little bit off about having her number 13th on the list is just because I feel like she had a really strong portion. Like again, she had a really in the 21st century. She's had a really strong start. Like the Pink Friday album did numbers. Like the first one, the Pink Print album was like her biggest moment culturally. It was kind of the moment in which like she was respected as a really strong like female rapper and like female pop star. And then like Queen and especially Pink Friday 2 kind of like undid a lot of that. And I feel like even like she still had her controversies and she still had her moments in the 2010s, especially with the Pink Print era and stuff like that. But like, and like the Pink Friday era, even Pink Friday 1. But she still had like was able to navigate through that and still like be respected culturally. I think because of the fact that like she is married to that man, she's been falling more into female drama when she really doesn't have to. And just like it feels like her heart's not in the music anymore because of the fact that like Pink Friday 2, I feel like a lot of Barbs were trying to like a lot of Barbs will defend that album. As someone who like used to be a Nicki Minaj fan, I refrain from calling myself a former Barb, but I feel like a lot of my friends would used to call me a Barb at some point. Her heart is just not in the music anymore. And like while she has topped the charts and has had success still, I feel like she as a music artist, especially in later years, has really been remembered for like the bad parts of her career per se rather than like the good, and it's making it really difficult for like the good parts of her career to be remembered fondly. Do I think that she can like come back from this? I'm not too sure because it seems like she's trying to lie in the grave that she's set for herself. um but you know, anybody can make a comeback, and especially with how people treat celebrities and treat people in this industry. So like I still have a lot of respect for Nicki Minaj, even though I have my issues with her. And I just don't think that she should be 13th on the list. I think she should be a little bit lower. Like, I just think that that is, in the sum of her career, I feel like that's just how it is. And that's just me personally. Number 12, Eminem. I'm going to skip over this just because I ain't got time for all that Houdini shit. Like, he's a respected artist. You know, he has his hits. But I don't have too much to say on that. Usher, number 11. You know what? Like, I kind of, I'm not too sure how I feel about the ranking, but like Usher he's a big pop star, and he has really, especially in like a pop and R&B star, like he really cemented himself as like a legend in that space. And I think that for a good portion of like the 21st century that we've been in so far, he has really like thrown his weight and had a lot of big hits during that time. Like we all can name some of our favorite like Usher songs and even Usher albums. Like I'm a big Usher fan. I like a lot of his stuff, and I still listen to his stuff, even his most recent albums. Um, but I know that he like it makes sense why he's like number 11th on this list because like his most recent albums have definitely not been as beloved as his previous stuff. Like I remember that Coming Home album coming out and like most people being like mixed on it because a lot of people I remember I'm like forgetting on who said this, but like but I kind of agree with them in which they were saying that Usher's trying to he's trying to attract like the like a club crowd that is not the audience that are like listening to him, and he's like attaching himself to like the Summer Walkers and stuff of this world, and it's like it's nothing wrong with doing that, but I feel like a lot of the music that he's making is for an audience, like it's for a younger audience, people who are my age, who are not going to listen to that music because it doesn't sound authentic to Usher. Like people my age who have listened to Usher respect Usher and love his older hits, but like the new stuff is not really reaching them in the ways that I think he wants it to be, and I feel like that's a problem and a discussion for another day. And will he correct it? I don't know. We'll see, because I think the Coming Home album didn't do that much numbers than that he was expecting, especially because it was like I think it came out like around the same time as like Cowboy Carter was being announced, and like there were other albums that were releasing around that time, and like there just wasn't that much promo for it. I might do a video talking about that and further, but that is Usher. Adele number 10, like Adele was that girl, like she still is that girl. I feel like a lot of people, like she had a lot of consistently hit albums, especially in like the 2010s, and she still has like cemented herself as like a singing legend. Um, I don't know how I feel about her being on 10th, but I think that she should be within the top like 15 for sure, because like she exploded on the scene, honey, and like really has gathered those accolades. Even with the 30 album, like I know a lot of people talk like in the music space make fun of the fact that like the 30 album you basically get it for less than $5 because they mass printed so many CDs and vinyls for that album that they're like available everywhere on clearance. I literally own 30, like two copies of 30. Like I have a CD which I was gifted for like Christmas a few years ago, and then I have the vinyl of 30, which I recently purchased. I paid nothing for it. So the like I know a lot of people talk about that, and I know like she's been doing her like Las Vegas residency, and I've been pissed because like I really wanted to go to that. Um but she has like cemented herself as like an iconic artist that people will remember fondly throughout the test of time. And I'm looking forward to the next like 5+ years once we get the next Adele album, if we even get another Adele album, because like 30 feels very complete. So if she never does an album again, like I will miss her, but like uh, I won't be too mad because 30 is a great album, and like her other albums are very iconic. Like even her like debut album, like whoa, like she has again like that's a voice. Number 9, Ariana Grande. Yes, like I low key, I do agree with that. I might even put her up a little bit higher because like, baby, Ariana Grande is like that pop artist. Like I think that she has cemented herself as an artist that like people will pay attention to regardless of if they're rolling out music or not. Like even like the big example is this was the Eternal Sunshine rollout this year, when in like Wicked, because this has been a really big year for Ariana Grande, both musically and just in general, because you had the moments with the rollout of Eternal Sunshine where people were talking about her like situation with like Ethan Slater and how like the drama was with that, and people were like basically stoning her through the public square, even though Ethan was the one who split with his wife and kid, question mark, does he have a kid? I gotta reread up on that, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. But the whole situation involving that, and you know how like she kind of reacted to it and like didn't say too much about it, but then she put out um Eternal Sunshine, and people basically kind of forgave her a little bit, just a little bit, and we're just like wow, like, and it gave us like a look into like her previous relationship with like what was it, Dalton or whatever his name was. um and it also just being a really strong, another really good album from her. People like she continued on with like the remixes with like some of the iconic the other iconic pop stars like Mariah Carey, for the Yes and remix, which I think is awful. I think we should have a bigger conversation about like the Mariah Carey remixes, because there's something going on there. And the Boys Mine remix with Brandy and Monica, which I think is incredible. The fact that she paid homage to that song and then did a remix with the OGs, and like the fact that she was able to rekindle the like dynamic and relationship that Monica and Brandy had, which they like fell out of that, which they had like had a really tumultuous time with since the release of the original Boys Mine, and the things that have happened since in the previous years. It's kind of you have to, yeah, you have to give her a chance. And like Wicked coming out, like being a musical, her this being like her biggest moments, and being a film that she has wanted to be a part of, and wanted to be a part of the Wicked, you know, the thing that is Wicked for since she's been a little kid, and this her being in this big film, the film doing well, the songs off of the film that she's performing doing well as well, and like her really getting her flowers with Cynthia as well. And I've talked about that before in other episodes. So props to her. I definitely, think she should be within the top 10 for sure. Justin Bieber, he had his hits in like his early portions of his career, and they were big hits too. I think in the later half of his career so far, like it's kind of been a little bit mixed and middling. Like the last big song I remember from him was "Yummy." You know, you got that yummy, that yummy, and that's only because of the fact that there was the situation in which like he was trying to push the streams. He like posted. He was one of the first artists to like do the poster, which, hey, here's what you can do to like make Yummy successful and like make Yummy chart. And like it was, and everyone was like, ooh, like we know that like stands can do that, but like you the artist telling us what the fans should be telling us is very, very desperate. And that situation that involved with that. But like he's still a big artist. I don't disagree with the fact of him being on this list. I don't know if he should be within the top 10, maybe top 15, but Kanye West number 7. Yes, if we focus on the music, yes, because like he again like he's had a very successful long run of music, and I feel like with a lot of people, because I feel like I could do a bigger video on Kanye West. I feel like the music has been a lot stronger and a lot bigger than him as a person and individual, to the point in which like even with like the anti-Semitic stuff that he's done and a lot of the weird like MAGA stuff that has come out, there has been this repeating cycle up until the anti-Semitic stuff that came out, where a lot of people were willing to forgive him on the very controversial and odd things that he was doing and moving and saying, if the music was good. Like a lot of people were willing to forgive him for like the slavery was a choice comment because he was still putting out good music. People were even willing to forgive like the MAGA stuff when he put Donda out, because Donda was still a relatively good album. But now it's kind of at the no points return type of thing, in which like everyone is now starting to say that he's washed, and like people can't forgive the things that he's commented on, and the people that he has like fantasized and like said that he relates to. So I think he, music wise and how he's been as a pop star, he should be on the list. And now we can leave it at that. Britney Spears number 6. Oh yes, I think there's nothing that should be said there. Number 6, I think Britney Spears should be within the top 10. She's had her hits. She's gone through a lot. For Britney Spears, for what she's gone through, and the fact that she's still dancing, because y'all see the Instagram video, she's still dancing. I feel like a lot of people have said this, and a lot of people have said that they wanted to come back. It's like, the thing is like, people like, I feel like everyone agrees that like if Britney Spears did a comeback, they'll be completely fine with it. Like they would love it, and they would love a Britney Spears comeback, but they are completely fine with the fact that like she doesn't really want to return to music, and that she's just kind of chilling doing her own thing, because like she deserves that. She needs that after everything she's been through, and she's still singing. For everything she's been through, and she's still dancing. Yup. Number 5, Lady Gaga. Oh yes, like I think that, and I recently did an episode of Lady Gaga talking about like, oh, the Lady Gaga fans hate her. Definitely agree. She's really cemented herself throughout the years as like a dynamic artist. She's done like pop. She's done like grunge, like darker music. That's not the genre for it. But I'm trying to wrap this episode up because we damn near at an hour. Um, she's done like country, she's done jazz, she's done like the musical music with like Harley Quinn recently, and like she's consistently, top the charts. She's consistently done her big ones with that, and I think that with her albums, like she is still like beloved, and she's reached audiences and has different like different fans within her fan base that like appreciate the different things that she does. It's like people like this. As I touched about on the Lady Gaga, why do Lady Gaga fans hate Lady Gaga? There's a good portion of her fans that only like the pop and like Born This Way type music that she's done. So like she like they talk all the time about that, and then they're like, when are you bringing this back, because we're tired about this jazz stuff. And then she did Chromatica, and everyone was like, oh yes, gag honey. Then you have the the jazz fans that has been getting they food with like the Tony Bennett collaboration, and then may he rest in peace, and then the Harley Quinn jazz musical companion album. Like they've been getting their things with that. So like she's consistent, and then like her performances, like everyone talks about her performances now. Like I remember the MTV Awards performance that people like love to this day. Like everyone remembers the art pop era and like the performances and stuff from that, and like the music videos from that, and like the controversy around that album, and like how people have grown to love that album. Like she has really stood the test of time compared to a lot of artists on this list as well. Drake, number 4. I will say he deserves to be in the top 10 only because of the fact that like he has chopped the charts consistently. Would I say he's a pop star? I don't know, because like him and Nicki Minaj are kind of in that gray area in which like realistically, and with a lot of the hits and the success that they've had as artists, they should be considered pop stars because a lot of their biggest songs have been pop, not rap. Like I remember that moment with circling back to Nicki Minaj. I remember that moment in which like she was first kind of rolling out. She was trying to roll out what would eventually become Pink Friday 2, and she was doing those like more rap heavy singles like We Go Up and like Do We Have a Problem, and like the Barbs were gagging at it because like, oh, like Nicki's coming back, but no one else was really gagging at it because like it was rap and like harder, like more of a harder rap sound for Nicki than like usual. And everyone was like, now what the hell is this? Like we don't listen to Nicki Minaj for this shit. Like we listen to everybody else for this stuff. And her eventually switching over to the more pop heavy sound for Pink Friday 2, because that's what gets you on the charts, and that's what people really care for Nicki Minaj for. Like people like Super Freaky Girl literally was a pop song. As much as she was saying that it was a rap song and should have been the Grammy thing, like you could say it's melodic rap, but it's more pop. It has that pop tease. It serves that pop tease, and the girls are liking it because it was like, even though she's rapping on the track, you can say it's melodic rap, but like people like it because it has that pop base to it. Same thing goes for Drake. A lot of his big hits have been pop and R&B songs. They have not been his rap songs. He's only really been able to get like attention from the rap songs because people have been dick riding him for the longest time. People have been giving it. He's been doing his payola. We remember the Spotify playlisting stuff, and the fact that he's been able to collaborate with other artists who do R&B, who do pop, who do like rap, like SZA and Sexy Red and all of them. But that messy ass light skin, kind of cooked. He's kind of washed. Will he stay on the list going forward as we continue on through the century? I hope not, but we will see. Number 3 goes to Rihanna. Like Rihanna kind of got it. Like she had her hits. Like she has her hits, and I think that she's really cemented herself. Like I think she should be number 3 just because of the fact that like to this day, even though it's been like it's about to be a decade. We're nearing a decade since like Anti came out, which is crazy, but it's the fact that to this day people have been asking for like another album like R9. Oh wait, that's R9. And they're like tit for tat about like will she won't she make a new album, we're still going to get new music from her. Will it be like the way that people want? Probably not, because we're getting that Smurfs musical that she's in, and she's got to do music for that. And then we had Lift Me Up by for Wakanda Forever that people was like really hyped for, and then people switched up on because it's not like it wasn't no Ponda replay. But yeah, she should be number 3. And like, again, to this day, like, even though she has not really put out music beyond that one single for Wakanda Forever, like, people still are wanting music from her. And I've talked about that before, and you know, we'll keep you posted if she does release new music. Then you have the Taylor Swift and Beyonce of it all. So Taylor Swift is number 2. If it were me, like, I will say that Taylor Swift deserves number 2 just because of the fact that, like, yes, she's been doing sold out tours. Yes, her fans are really deranged and have been like watching sports because she's dating like that one dude who I can't get rid of. Yes, she's had like successful albums with like the Tortured Poets Department, and like Midnights, which is mid, and like has dominated the charts for like weeks and weeks and weeks on end. But the reason she should be at number 2 is, one, because of the fact that, like, one, it's in the performance of it, but like, one, it's because she's been able to mobilize a relatively white audience to do a lot of big things, whether it's to whether it's to send out tours and like kick off the conversation about splitting up and investigating Ticketmaster for the very scummy and shady practices that they do with event tickets with Ticketmaster and Live Nation. Or whether it was potentially to vote. Like, sometimes you could, like, there's been the conversations of like Taylor Swift telling people to go vote, and like how that has mobilized people. This year might be a more questionable conversation because I think she waited a little bit too damn long and didn't do too much to endorse Kamala, but that's another conversation for another day. But like, people mobilize for Taylor Swift. Oh, even with the movie, like, people mobilize to go see that movie in theaters. Literally calls like AMC and the Fandango and like all the movie ticket sites to like freeze and shut down and have like wait times because people were trying to buy those Taylor Swift tickets. Like, she has the audience, but I don't think she has the longevity or like the cultural relevance with her music. Like, I feel like most people beyond her hardcore fans don't really recognize any of her modern hits. Like, and that's the problem that I think is at hand and at play. Like, I think Taylor Swift fans want her to be rewarded for music that isn't really moving people. And I think that that's the big issue. And like, we could also get into the weeds about like the performance of her music and how like genuinely the only reason that she's really topping the charts is, one, because her fans are like doing everything that they can to like buy and stream the music and like basically be bots to like buy in and like really push those numbers, but also because she is releasing like 500 different versions of the same album and the same track to like push sales and keep her on the top of the charts. Which, if you really are, I think that's what makes her number 2 and like prevents her from really taking that top spot. Because if you really are the greatest pop star of this generation, of the 21st century, you shouldn't have to do all that to cement yourself as the pop star. And that's why I think Beyonce should be number 1, because she has been an artist who has really shown growth throughout the time that she's been an artist. Obviously, she went from Destiny's Child to solo music. Solo music had her bumpy ride. You know, she had her original single, and then you had Crazy in Love, and then you had the Dangerously in Love album. You had, you know, her growth throughout that time. You had the self-titled album, which literally changed the ways that music is released. She literally helped pioneer people doing surprise releases for music. Then you had Lemonade, one of her most personal albums of her career, talking about infidelity, talking about relationships, talking about those things, having the visual album with it, and kicking things off for artists with the visual album. Well, it started off more so with like the self-titled album, but Lemonade really cementing that. You have her brand friendly, prowess working with Disney for like the Black is King album and like the Lion King, and really getting her back with that. And the visual film that went alongside that as well. And then you have her like experimenting with Black is King, with Renaissance, with Cowboy Carter, her experimenting into different genres and sounds that she usually was not stepping her foot into, or if she was, kind of flirting with it, and really leaning into it and coming up with cohesive sounds and creating big cultural moments with her projects. I don't think that a lot of people recognize the fact that Renaissance was as big as a cultural moment as it was. And I think that people won't really realize how big Renaissance was as an album and as a tour and as like this big era for Beyonce until, years from now, when things like the dust really settles. Because like the fact that the concert was selling out, and she also was like rivaling, if not topping, Taylor Swift in moments for these ticket sales. She had people literally coming out and creating custom outfits and hats and looks for the vision of this album, the aesthetic of this album, whether it was the movie and how like the movie and the visuals that were being teased, and how people to this day are asking, where are the visuals? Are we ever getting this movie released? To this day, I'm also asking, when are we getting that movie released? Because I saw the movie in theaters, and it just seems like it's given a moment that you're going to sit with and remember fondly if you were there in that moment. And Cowboy Carter hasn't necessarily done the same things. It's changed how people look at Black artists and country music. That's one of the biggest things that has changed. But it hasn't been as a full fleshed out era just yet compared to Renaissance. But even then, she's really cemented her place as one of the, if not, well, she said her as the greatest pop star of the 21st century. And I agree with that placement of her being number one. But hey, if you don't agree, that's okay. You can still stream the artists that you can stream. You can still listen to the artists you want to listen to. I definitely would have some different additions to the list and some different placements on the list, but that's just me. I hope y'all enjoyed this first episode of Vlogsmas. This is an hour and 2 minutes, the longest episode yet. We got actually stream this shit. We will see. But I hope y'all enjoyed this episode of the Cake Radio Show. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, where you get episodes before everywhere else. Give me your thoughts on this whole thing, as well as follow us on anywhere you listen to your podcast. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, literally pretty much damn near every podcast platform we're on. And support, because it helps. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see y'all possibly tomorrow for the next episode. Bye-bye.